going to show you how to clear fractions from a linear equation in order to solve the equation. And the first thing that you need to have is an equation, and you can tell you have an equation because it's got an equal sign. So we need to always be sure that that's the situation that we're working on. And then I need to find a least common denominator. And the least common denominator is going to be the smallest number that's a multiple of 3, 5, and 10, all three of them. So I can think about 5 is a factor of 10, so I know any multiple of 10 will also be a multiple of 5. For example, multiples of 10 are 10, 20, 30, and so on. And then in each of those three is also divisible by 5. Then I can look at the 3, and I'm looking for what is a multiple of 10 that's also a multiple of 3. Well, 10's not a multiple of 3, 20's not, 21 is, but not 20. And then when I look at 30, that's the first multiple of 10 that is also a multiple of 3. And because 3 goes into 30 10 times, 5 goes into 30 6 times, and 10 goes into 30 3 times, 30 is my least common multiple. Okay, then once I've determined that 30 is the least common multiple, I want to multiply both sides of my equation by the same number, and of course I'll choose my least common denominator. My goal is for all my fractions to go away, or to clear. So I multiply both sides by the 30 that I came up with a minute ago. Now when I do that, on the right hand side I've only got just the one fraction, and I can think of it as 30 over 1 that's being multiplied by this one fraction, t plus 3 over 10. And then I can also reduce. 10 goes into 30 3 times, and I'm left just needing to distribute this 3 inside the parentheses. So I'll end up with 3t plus 9 on the right hand side, and on the left hand side I have a little bit more work to do. I need to distribute that 30 inside the parentheses, so then I'll have 30, and I can think of it as over 1 again, that helps a lot, times that first term, t over 3, and then I want to do something with this minus so that I don't forget about it, so I'm going to move it to my numerator and put it up on the top and change this to a plus in between. Then I'll have plus, and there's my 30 over 1 that I'm distributing here, times negative t over 5. Now what I'm going to do is reduce these fractions. The 3 goes into 30 10 times, the 5 goes into 30 6 times, and this is one term here, that's why I can reduce before I multiply. One term here, reduce before you multiply, and what do I have left? A 10 times t, or 10t, and my denominator, the 3 reduced with the 30, all that's left is a 1, so I have it basically over 1, but I don't need to show the over 1, it's implied. And on the next term I have a plus 6 times negative t, or minus 6t. And on the right hand side I still have that 3t plus 9 that I was working with before. Now 10t minus 6t is 4t, and the 3t plus 9, I've combined like terms here. Now I'd like to move the 3t to the other side, so I'll go ahead and subtract 3t from both sides. And then 4t minus 3t is just a t, equals, and then the 3t minus 3t is 0, so I don't have to write anything down, and then I have a 9. So my solution, I would click this box on Hawks and put my solution is a 9. To check that, I plug in this 9 that I think is my solution into the original equation everywhere I see a t. So I'm going to have a 9 over 3 minus 9 over 5 equals 9 plus 3 over 10. Now 9 divided by 3 is just a 3, or a 3 over 1, and the 9/5 won't reduce, so I'll just leave it like that. And 9 plus 3 is 12 over 10, and I can reduce this by dividing by 2 on the numerator and dividing by 2 on the denominator. So I'm left with 6/5. Now I can go ahead and add 9/5. It looks like an easy thing to do because all my fifths will be on one side. That was a 9 over 5. I'll add 9/5 to the right hand also. And then I have 3 left on the left hand side, and on the right I have 6/5 plus 9/5. 6 plus 9 is 15. Divided by 5 is really a 3, and so 3 equals 3, and my answer checks. That means I have double checked. 9 really is my solution here. Now, this next problem, slide it up just a bit, is a little different because I have a fraction and then a quantity that it's being multiplied by. So I want to show you two different ways to solve it and use those two ways to prove to you each one of them is correct. The first thing that I could do is try distributing the fraction, and on the right hand side I have a -2/5 that I would be distributing into the parentheses also. When I distribute here, I have 4/5 z plus 4/5 equals -2/5 z plus -2/5 times 5, and we can think of it as 5 over 1 again. Any whole number is the same thing over 1. These 5's will reduce because these two are being multiplied, and there are no like terms here, so I can just rewrite 4/5 z plus 4/5 equals -2/5 z minus 2. Now I want to get my z's on one side and my numbers on the other, and I see that I have a common denominator on 3 out of the 4 terms of 5. So I'm going to use that least common denominator of 5 and multiply again like I did in the first problem. Multiply both sides by that 5. Think of it as 5 over 1 if that helps. And then I want to distribute so that every term is going to be multiplied by that 5 over 1. So on the left hand side, the first term, I have 5 over 1 times 4 over 5 z plus 5 over 1 times 4 over 5, and then -2/5 z, I have to multiply that by 5 over 1, and -2 times 5 is just -10. I don't need the 5 over 1 or to think about it that way for this, it's just a whole number. Then here my 5's reduce on every term, and I'm left with 4z plus 4 equals -2z minus 10. Now all my fractions are gone, and that was the beauty of finding this least common denominator and multiplying every term by that common denominator, because my fractions all went away. Now I can add 2z to both sides, and at the same time I'd like to move this 4 over to the right hand side, so to do that it's being added, so I'll just subtract 4, and I'm doing it on the same step just to save a little bit of space. And then I have 4z plus 2z, that's going to give me 6z, positive 4 minus 4, that gives me a 0, -2 positive 2 gives me a 0, -10 -4 gives me -14. Divide both sides by 6, I'm still trying to get that z all by itself, and z equals, if I reduce by 2 here I get 7 and 3, so my answer is -7/3.